Key point 1. How to maximize your productivity when you have work overload. Imagine being promoted to a new, higher position in your organization. After the euphoria of the whole thing has died down, you'll be left to face the stark reality of your new position. More goals to crush, tighter deadlines to meet, more creative thinking to do, and more people to manage. Put simply, your workload will multiply and your boss's expectations of you will go up. This is the single reason many employees suffer breakdowns after being promoted. You will need time to adjust to the new position, but the process will be much easier if you master how to be productive despite the overload. You don't need to be recently promoted to learn the skill of personal productivity. Everyone waking up to a job has to learn to be productive, and it all starts with learning how your brain works. Mental activities are more energy draining than physical activities, like pushing a truck. This is why a secretary might get fatigued after 3 hours of consistent work, while a truck driver can be on duty for 8 hours and still continue working. So if you find yourself being fatigued often on your job that requires brain performance, just know you're not alone. With this fact in view, how can people involved in mentally tasking activities maximize their work time so they can do so much in a day? There are a couple of ways to go about that inspired by scientific development. Start with giving your brain the right amount of glucose. Remember, research shows that those engaged in mentally demanding activities can keep their energy levels up by having regular glucose intake. Working with a cup of coffee beside you will help a lot in this regard. If you're not that into coffee, you can take anything that provides you with glucose. However, glucose alone is not sufficient to keep your brain productive all through your work hours. The way you start and go about your day is important too. Those are the things you'll be learning from this summary. The next chapter will show you how your routine has been keeping you from achieving more than you could naturally achieve and what you can do about it. As we proceed in the summary, you'll also learn about mindfulness and other activities that will help you function better at work. Key point 2. If you change your routine for the better, you can change your life. If you aren't meeting deadlines or you find that you aren't producing the quota your boss expects of you, then you need to check and see if you're being productive enough. Most times, the solution to our unproductiveness lies in our daily routines. Your brain has limited energy per day. This is especially true for the cortex, the part of the brain responsible for mental activities. It's therefore wise to always do important work early before fatigue kicks in, and you can't be as creative as you could be. Many of our approaches to work do nothing but waste our mental capacities, which is why we often end up not meeting our daily targets. Keep in mind that you need to learn to set priorities for each day and do difficult tasks during your peak hours. Most people will entertain an idea in their heads, ponder upon it for a few minutes, then continue driving, hoping to recall the idea when they get out of the car. If you've ever had any such experiences, you will know that it's hard to recall a fresh idea that you didn't document. If you try hard, you'll only regain fractions of it. The next time you have an idea, pause whatever you're doing and pen it down or type it on your phone's notepad. It also helps to ponder on the idea for a few minutes. Next, change how you approach your workload. It's always tiring to face the day when there's a lot to do. If you overthink about your workload, you'll begin to feel the tiredness of doing all the work. So when it comes to doing the work, you'll be too mentally exhausted to accomplish anything worthwhile before the day ends. Set priorities instead. Begin your day with a list of all the activities you are to do in the day. You could write it on paper or digitally. Next, arrange those tasks in their order of complexity and significance. Visualization will help you better categorize the tasks, so imagine yourself doing them while prioritizing. Did you know, visualization will help your brain relax and boost your energy to go about your duty. Key point 3. Get rid of distractions. Improve your productivity. Has this ever happened to you? You were working on an important project, then got the idea to check social media briefly, and end up wasting more time than you planned. Or you were working on something in the office and suddenly got lost in thoughts for minutes. You're not alone. We all struggle with distractions every day. But this chapter hopes to help you overcome it to some extent. David Rock classifies distractions into two, external and internal. External distractions come from the environment. Examples include the social media we talked about, chit-chats with colleagues, getting an abrupt phone call in the middle of a task, etc. A simple hack for overcoming external distractions is identifying patterns and shutting them down before you start working. For example, this could mean putting your phone on focus mode to avoid getting social media distractions, refusing to pick any phone calls when you're busy, etc. The situations are different for everyone. Just identify external factors that distract you and create strategies to avoid them beforehand. Internal distractions occur as the mind wanders away from your current task. This occurs quite frequently, and it's harder to deal with than external distractions. The reason our minds wander often is due to the countless neural activities going on in the brain at every point in time, even when we're asleep. It takes some practice to overcome internal distractions. It won't be easy at first, but with time you'll master it. The most basic thing to do is try to call your mind back each time it wanders. Let's say you're writing a report and a sentence from the report reminds you of something in the past. Your mind will want to stray and think about it, but you can catch yourself mid-thought and cause your mind to refocus. Other things you can do to avoid internal distractions include meditation and proper exercising. Performing these activities early in the day will enable you to clear your mind before getting to work, and your focus will increase. Sometimes reducing a problem to one short sentence can be enough to bring about insight on its own. David Rock. Key point 4. Mindfulness is a trait that everyone needs to learn. It's not just enough to have knowledge of how the brain works. Such knowledge wouldn't be so useful to you when you don't practice self-observation or self-awareness, as it's popularly called. Self-awareness is a practice in which you mentally step out of yourself and begin looking at yourself as you would a different human being. The reason this is powerful is that it enables you to understand yourself better and be in the moment so you can stop your life from being on autopilot. Remember to make self-awareness a habit, and you will identify the patterns keeping you from achieving your best in the workplace. It's natural for the decisions we make at the moment to be influenced by the experiences we had years ago. For example, John is an independent contractor who helps build and maintain websites for businesses. He has been doing this since he lost his job 5 years ago, and he's successful at it. At least he earns enough to keep the family running. But just 3 months ago, John almost got abducted. A client he met online invited him to his home office to help build a site for his online clothing shop. Little did he know, it was a trap. John escaped being kidnapped, but he still has that bitter memory in the recesses of his mind. He almost lost an important contract because of it. A new major client wanted him to come over to their home office to discuss business. John objected strongly and convinced the client to meet him in a coffee shop. The client obliged after some back and forths, but not everyone will do the same. Some clients will assume you're not ready to work because you can't meet them in their house and find an alternative instead. John would have lost the contract if this client was one of such. John is fictional, but his story is something we experience every day. Our daily decisions are influenced largely by our past experiences, and this is an evolutionary trait the brain adopted to keep us from falling into the same dangers we or our ancestors experienced in the past. As much as this is a useful trait, it doesn't always serve us, and the only way to know if the trait is good for the moment is to practice mindfulness. Key point 5. The brain needs social interaction to function effectively. Your brain sees people as either friends or foes, and this is a trait it developed to keep our ancestors safe from predators and dangerous people. Naturally, every stranger you meet is perceived as a foe until proven otherwise. The strangers don't have to be in bad guys' costumes. The mere fact that you don't know them makes your brain automatically categorize them as foes. You can relate well to this. Just think about the last time you were in a room full of strangers. The good part is that those false signals you get about strangers can be easily changed to positive by forming connections with the people you meet. Let's return to that room full of strangers. Say your friend who invited you to the meeting arrived 10 minutes after you. They quickly located you and took you around, introducing you to several groups of people. It wouldn't take long before you completely lose every feeling of threat and start enjoying the event. Remember, the brain naturally categorizes people into friends and foes. Any stranger is perceived as a foe until you build a connection with them. Leaders in any position should take advantage of this trait. Your first goal as a team leader must not be to get your team to work and meet deadlines. That is surely the end goal of the team, but the way to get there is by building a solid emotional connection among your team members. Let them all feel emotionally safe around each other. If a member of your team considers you or any other member as a foe instead of a friend, then you don't really have a team, and the team won't be as productive as it ought to be. Team productivity happens when everyone on board is comfortable being themselves. This is why small groups who know, like, and trust each other are always super effective. Key point 6. Understanding the mechanics of status threat will make you and your team more effective. Life, from childhood to adulthood and death, is full of competition. Just take a moment to think about it, and you'll realize how true it is. As a kid, you competed with siblings for the attention and care of your parents. You competed in class to obtain nice remarks from your teachers and peers. The competition in the workplace is even more intense because the stakes are higher. The problem is, this competition mindset results inevitably in winners and losers. The winners in every situation experience a boost in status, while losers feel threatened and their defense mechanisms kick in immediately. This setting makes the workplace toxic for everyone. Imagine a typical boardroom meeting. A good number of the attendees will be busy pushing up their status by polishing their good works and talking down the board members they perceive as threats to their progress. There will also be a fight for status when teammates feel they are competing rather than completing one another. You'll see the stark reality of this status fight if you're a member of a small team, and there are 2 things you can do to stop it from destroying the effectiveness of your team. The first thing is to reduce your own status so the other person will have the chance to experience an increase in status. Something as simple as saying sorry and portraying that you're human with limitations yourself will go a long way in boosting the other person's status level. The second thing to do, which is very important, is to give people positive feedback that you truly mean from your heart. Positive feedback always boosts people's sense of self-worth. But how do you deal with your own personal desire for status increase? Do you have to put other people down just to feel good about yourself? Definitely not. Neuroscientific research shows that the brain has a hard time differentiating between competing against yourself and competing against other people. Use this to your advantage. Compete against yourself. Seek to be better than the person you used to be. Push yourself to achieve greater feats, and you will be surprised by your growth over time. Status is a significant driver of behavior at work and across life experiences. David Rock. Conclusion. Your brain holds the key to your effectiveness. Understanding how it works will increase your workplace performance in no small way. The brain works more effectively when it is not under threat, so as much as you can, give it the nutrients and rest it needs. When you feel down at work, drink a cup of coffee, which is also a great opportunity to have a small talk at a coffee point. Eat a fruit or candy, have a little walk to the water cooler. All these can help you feel better about yourself, so you can concentrate on your tasks. Bring some novelty if you feel like you're stuck with a project or any responsibility you have at the moment. Your brain reacts positively to some new experiences. For example, you can joke around with a colleague because jokes are usually unexpected and boost the work of the human brain. You can also rearrange the objects on your desk or clean it. One more thing that can help is listening to a new song. Don't give up or don't think that your fatigue or frustration cannot be beaten by yourself. We cannot control specific processes happening in our brain all the time, but what we can do is make our brain think that the situation has improved. Also, keep yourself from being at loggerheads with coworkers. Evolution made us perceive strangers as foes because not trusting someone in the past could help our ancestors survive and procreate. That's why a new colleague arouses hostile feelings. But don't be deceived by such emotions and make small talk with a new person. This will help your brain make sure that an individual is safe to socialize with, and it'll start to perceive them as a friend. Try this. Here are a few hacks to help you. When ideas arise in your head, don't hold them thinking you'll recall them later, because you won't. Record them or write them down instead. Start every day with a plan. Prioritize your activities and begin with the most difficult ones. Do the easy ones last. Use handshakes and small talks to mentally move strangers around you from perceived foes to friends. When organizing a meeting for the first time, your goal should be to create rapport among your team members and nothing more. Discuss work only after everyone on the team stops perceiving their teammates as strangers or foes. And use positive feedback to boost the status of your teammates.